And good evening, everybody. Thanks again for listening. This is the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome God Radio. I am your host, Nelson E. Brown, and we're going to dive right into the discussion tonight about toxic masculinity in today's culture. But I wanted to give you guys a few announcements because I hope you guys are really enjoying the first few weeks in 2021. I know that things have been pretty hectic in the world between all of the national events that have taken place and between just dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and just layers and layers of issues that we have been facing as a community and the issues that we've been facing as a nation. Right now, I have Mr. Jordan Davis here with us. And in this segment, I decided to call this the Beauty in Us Radio, Black Boy Psychology. And I gave it that title because I wanted to talk about toxic masculinity in today's culture. But I have a few announcements to make before we dive deep into that discussion. I wanted to let you guys know that, of our CEO, Antoine Jefferson, a.k.a. AJ, I'm going to brag about him for a second and say that he did his very first sermon this past Sunday. And we are all very proud of him. We have watched him grow along our journeys. I know I'm still kind of new to AGR, but I definitely appreciate all of what he's done for me. He's given me a platform. He's given me a platform where I can share things from the perspective of young Black men. And because I think that the media does not do the best job at that. And I'm thankful and grateful for the fact that he's given me this chance to have this platform so that young Black men can share their thoughts and ideas about subjects that matter. So I wanted to give a shout out to him, and I wanted to congratulate him for doing that and for, his initial sermon and becoming a minister. So, and he's on right now already. I didn't even know that. So I just want to, give him a shout out first and foremost. And I wanted to also thank you guys for tuning in every single week. I have my listeners that tune in from everywhere. I'm getting new people all the time, and I really do appreciate it. But I want to dive deep into the discussion tonight. So, Mr. Jordan Davis, I know that, and I know that you and I, this is not our first time, of course, crossing paths. I want to let you guys know that we used to be classmates. We grew up in school together. We were childhood classmates in elementary school and middle school. And we kind of reunited in college. So this is not our first time crossing paths with one another. So I just wanted to put that out there. But Jordan, I know that you have a brand that's called JD Speaks. And I know that you started that brand a few years back. And you told me about it a couple of years ago. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I have your bio right here, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to let you talk about it since it's your story and since it's your platform.
Sure. Well, absolutely, Nelson. Thank you so much for opening the floor to me. And before I get into the details in my backstory, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. And you kind of mentioned this a few moments ago for our paths to cross once again and to come full circle, and for us to be both on the same call tonight is just absolutely amazing. I'm just super proud of you and all that you're doing, to be working on, your third book, and to already have two books that are successful and are helping people in their lives and in their journeys is just absolutely amazing. So I'm definitely proud of you, and I appreciate you for having me on the show tonight. And to talk a little bit more about my story and how JD Speaks came to be, I actually started publicly speaking in my latter high school career. So in high school, I competed in an organization called Future Business Leaders of America, and it allowed students to compete in business-themed events for scholarships. And I was actually recruited by my finance teacher to compete in FBLA. That's the shorter way of saying it. And the competition that I competed in was public speaking. So you had people competing in marketing and graphic design, people doing hospitality, things that are like business oriented that people build skills in. And public speaking was the thing that I competed in, and I did really well. I actually competed on the national stage. I placed 7th in the country out of the top 100 youth public speakers in my senior year of high school. And that's when I found out that public speaking was absolutely my gift. It was something that I was passionate about, and it was something that I was really good at, and I wanted to continue to find ways to do that. So I just started talking more about my story. I'm a student that started out with a 2.4 GPA. That was my GPA at the end of my junior year of high school. Didn't really know whether college was in the plans for me. Luckily, I had the game of football that kind of, steered me in that direction. I always had the dream of playing college football, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that experience later on in the show. But that is really when I started to become interested in going to college, and I started to take my academics a lot more seriously at that point. So now, as a speaker, I coach students on not only the importance of education, but how to improve their grades, how to get certain internship opportunities and scholarship opportunities, and really just advance themselves and use education as that launch pad into their future. And I know that education kind of gets a bad rap nowadays with college being so expensive, and there's so many other ways to make money and to be successful in this world without having a college degree. But I truly believe that the core of education is extremely powerful, and it's life-changing. And education, especially my experience at McDaniel College, has definitely changed my life in a lot of ways. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be the same person today if it weren't for the education that I've had over the years.
Okay, I definitely understand everything that you just said. Yeah, I was muted for a second. Sorry about that. I definitely understand everything that you just shared, and it's so amazing because because we often find ourselves trying to we think about different careers that we want to pursue growing up, especially like in elementary school. We have ideas of what we want to do when we're growing up, or we have ideas about things that we don't want to do when we grow up. But we find ourselves sometimes entering into a field that we didn't really expect to be in, because our interests change, our hobbies change. We discover new gifts and new talents and new aspirations as we grow old. We'll grow older and when we become more mature, throughout our journeys. And I know that again, the conversation about toxic masculinity plays a significant role in the way we view ourselves, and it can either make or break our self-esteem. So what is your experience like with self-esteem? Like, did you ever struggle with self-esteem growing up, and did you ever develop a self-concept where it was hard for you to see the beauty in yourself and in your abilities? So what did that look like for you? Because I know that it transcends into the work that you do now as a motivational speaker. So what was that like for you growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I only struggled with self-esteem for a very short period of time in my life. And I would say that was around late elementary school or early middle school. So you're talking about around 4th or 5th grade. And I remember around that time, as you can see, I am a dark-skinned male. And I was one of I had, the darkest skin out of anybody in my class. And I know that, a lot of people would not even sometimes they wouldn't even necessarily try to verbally harm me. They would just kind of point it out. They would say, oh, your skin looks really dark against that shirt, or just things that we say as young people that we don't even realize is really offending. We kind of just say what's on our mind sometimes. And there were some points in middle school and in early elementary school where I kind of internalized that, and I kind of questioned, like, why is this a thing that people pay attention to? Like, why is this something that is an issue? Like, is there something wrong with my skin color? Like, I know my parents are dark skinned too. Like, they don't, talk about it in a negative way. So, before people even started saying anything about it, I didn't even know that was a thing to kind of take note of. And colorism is absolutely a thing that a lot of people struggle with in the Black community, and it's something that I struggled with early in my middle school career. But when I brought that up to my parents, I had the courage to actually talk to my parents about it. My parents kind of shut all that down immediately. They were like, "Oh, boy, you need to be proud of your skin color." You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with being a dark-skinned boy. There's nothing wrong with having braids. I had braids at the time. I'm glad I'm done that phase of my life. But at the time I had braids, I had dark skin, so I didn't look like a lot of my other, male classmates at the time. And my parents kind of taught me to take pride in that. And ever since then, I've never really been afraid to express myself. And that even comes from my background as a hip hop dancer. I did some hip hop dancing in middle school. I don't know if you remember any of that, Nelson, but I did a little bit of that. And I even think, that experience that I had, in the many talents that I had, I played the drums in my church. So that's another way that I express myself. And then now as a speaker, I'm able to use that same confidence and to use that same self-esteem in my speaking, and it makes my gift even more powerful. So I absolutely give credit to my parents for letting me know, like, hey, like, be proud of who you are. There's nothing wrong with the way you look. God made you a certain way for a reason. And, I'm glad that I look the way that I do. I'm glad that I feel the way that I do. And I definitely accredit that to my parents and my upbringing. So.
Yes, and I know that it definitely plays a part into how we view ourselves. Skin color is just one aspect of how we can sometimes be very critical of ourselves and what we look like and what we do, how other people perceive us, and just things of that nature. I know that puts a wear and tear on our self-esteem at times. I was going to say that when we talk about colorism, I know that I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I get it too all the time, because a lot of people have really, really negative views about light-skinned people too, or people who are of a lighter hue. A lot of people think that we have an advantage, or that we somehow think that we're better than everybody else, or we're more attractive than everybody else. But a lot of people don't understand that we struggle with a lot of the same issues that has no color, or has no shade. Because I created this platform on Awesome God Radio, The Beauty in Us, because it expands beyond the book series that I established back in 2018 with the first book that I wrote, The Beauty in Us, Our Reality. And it talks about how it's a memoir about how I struggled with self-esteem growing up in different phases of my life, from kindergarten all the way through high school when I graduated. So that's when that's how I share different components of my life, and how the events that have happened, or the people who are a part of that phase, how they either destroyed my self-esteem or uplifted me in some way, shape, or form. And I think that to start off, I didn't really think it started off in the very, very beginning when I first started school. My views of my self-esteem and not being the best. I struggled with weight-related issues when I was younger. So I didn't really look at my self-image or my weight as being a problem until I was about 10 or 11 years old. And also during that time, there was one of my educators in particular. You know who he is. I'm not going to say his name because some people might be listening. But he was in our school. He was a black teacher. And, my mom and I, we were really, really excited when we first started, at our school, because we didn't really see a lot of black male teachers in the profession. There aren't a lot of black males as teachers in the field of education. There aren't a lot of black male principals. There aren't a lot of black males just teaching in elementary school. So we looked at it as an opportunity for me to grow and advance. We thought that would have created some type of safe haven for me, because seeing somebody that looked like me or who was from the same community, I thought that I would have been able to relate to. But being in his class and under his instruction and under his leadership, it was just one of the most stressful periods of my life because of how I felt mistreated by him. And he is a part of the reason why I still struggle with self-esteem today, because because I felt like he treated me differently. I felt like he had his favorites in our class, and he even sat in a parent-teachers conference with my mom and said that math just wasn't my thing, and that I wasn't smart enough to be in his class. So that really, really damaged my self-esteem, because I felt like he wasn't doing his all to make sure that I was being the successful person that I was supposed to be, or the successful young man that I was supposed to be. And he just gave me a hard time the entire time I was in his class. He was really apprehensive about helping me. He didn't really want to, uplift me at all, I felt like. And what hurt me more is that, a black man is talking to a black boy like that. That is not cool to me. Emasculating somebody else is not cool to me. So to make a long story short, it was really, really difficult for me to understand why he was treating me the way he was treating me. But I felt like his ultimate goal was to just become a principal. And that was the only thing that he was concerned about. And that was his main objective. And he didn't care about who he was going to trample over in order to get to where he wanted to be. And that didn't sit well with me at all. And I felt powerless at the time. So what does it look like? What is your definition of toxic masculinity in today's culture? Because I know that it can take shape in any form, whether it's in our family, whether it's in the family structure, whether it's in our relationships with others, in the workplace, with our peers. I mean, it can take shape in many ways. So what does that experience look like for you? And how do you define that?
Yeah. So when you said that, I feel like two main words came to mind. The first one is restrictive, and the second one is exclusivity. So not only does toxic masculinity kind of restrict you and restrict your personality, and you're not able to express yourself in the way that you would without those societal norms weighing on you, or without the actions of people who believe in those societal norms weighing on you, but it's also exclusive. You feel like you're either in the club, you're either are masculine or you're not. There's no place for you when it comes to being outside of what is deemed masculine in our society. So, anything that changes your natural behavior, that changes your goals, that changes your beliefs, your values, that is centered around your masculinity and who you are, is indeed toxic. And I think that it needs to be unpacked. And I know that you were telling me earlier, and I'm sure you've told your audience that you see a therapist, you know what I mean? And I see a mental health counselor myself. And I feel like a lot of men, especially black men, need to have that experience of unpacking all of the toxic masculinity that they have encountered in their lives, even if they don't internalize it as toxic, or even if they don't see the bad in some of the things that they've experienced. They need to realize the ramifications that it has had and the effect that it has had, on their lives. So really, toxic masculinity is restrictive because it doesn't allow you to be who you are. It doesn't allow you to just be. I feel like another thing that's involved with toxic masculinity is that you always have to be something. You always have to be driven. You always have to aspire to something. It's almost like you have to earn masculinity in a way. And it doesn't just allow us to be, you know what I'm saying? So it's definitely restrictive, and it's also exclusive because if you're not deemed as masculine in terms of how society views masculinity, there aren't a lot of places for you in our society, sadly.
Yes, and I definitely understand what you mean completely. I was also going to share that I do see a therapist weekly, once a week, and one of the activities that my therapist gave me was to write down the pieces and the parts that make up my foundation, whether they're strengths or weaknesses. So that's what I've been working on, and that's the work that I've been doing for a while now. I've been seeing my therapist since last summer. I decided to make the decision to enter back into therapy because I realized that I still had more things to unpack. There are still issues that are under the surface that I feel as though need to be resolved because I'm in a place in my life where I want to make progress in different areas. Professionally, I feel secure in who I am professionally. So when it comes to working hard, especially with academics, I go to UMBC. I study sociology. So as far as my academics are concerned and my professional life is concerned and my work ethics, I'm the type of guy who knows how to make money, who knows how to invest and save money. I'm the type of guy that knows how to get good grades and knows how to work hard. I feel confident in my abilities when it comes to my professional life. But personally, I realize that I still have a lot of insecurities. I still have a lot of areas that I need to work on. And I realized that I have more like I said, more insecurities and more faults in me that I really need to heal. They're broken pieces of me from when I was, a little boy that I know that I need to put back together. And that's what I'm doing. And and I know that in the family structure, it can really, really be a challenge to figure out what that is growing up, because I was raised by a single mom, and my mom and we have a really close relationship. I feel as though I can speak to her about anything. She's the one that raised me. I had an absent father. So a lot of people don't look at that in the positive light. Single mothers raising sons, they don't really look at that in the positive light. And I received a lot of criticism behind that. Even though I did receive support, I do have, mentors. I didn't really receive a lot of support of that, because a lot of people now that I'm successful and now that people know who I am because of the work that I do, I think that everybody's trying to hop on the bandwagon now and make comments now because they see how successful I am, because they didn't really believe in my abilities. They didn't really believe that I was doing anything on my own. They thought that she was doing everything for me, and that was not the case, and that has never been the case. So it made me think that people really don't value single moms the way I feel as though they should in today's culture, because they never reprimand the absent parent or the absent father in my scenario for being absent and for participating in my life. So that those criticisms and those critiques really affected my self-esteem too, because it made me feel as though I didn't belong, or that I was less of a man because I was raised by a woman, and that is not true. It was never true. But it's just I know that the family structure really plays a role into how you view yourself and the relationships that you have with your parents. But I'm really grateful that I have a good relationship with my mom, because she is very successful. I told her that, on my show, on her last day or her last week at work before she retires, I'm going to do a broadcast. So to celebrate her retirement, from her place of employment. So I talk about how successful she is, and I brag about that all the time. And she just thinks that she's just doing what she's supposed to do. But I told her that, she's accomplished a lot more than what she gives herself credit for, and also my aunts in my family, the same thing. So I know that it's imperative for men to have good relationships with their moms, because I notice now that I'm older that a lot of men who don't have good relationships with their moms or the maternal figures in their lives, they have those mommy issues carry into their relationships. So what does that look like? What do you think that looks like?
Sure, I'll go into a little bit of that, and I just want to say, like, that's great that you have such a close relationship with your mom. Like that's awesome, and I could definitely attest to that because I have a really close relationship with my mom too. I was raised with both parents in my house. Of course, I'm close to my dad too, but I would say that I am a mama's boy, so I'm closer to my mom than I am my dad. And it was so striking when you said that people who do not have a close relationship with their mother carry those same mommy issues into their other relationships, because I actually saw that firsthand with my older brother. I'm 21 years old. My older brother is 9 years older than I am. And he's never had a great relationship with my mom. And, sometimes their relationship has been rocky, to say the least. They've had several verbal disputes. There have been lawsuits that have happened, restraining orders. Just like I've been able to see all the things not to do to your loved ones from the examples that I've gotten from my brother. And I can just see, the certain things that he's gone through in his life, with his friendships, with his intimate relationships. And I could definitely see some of those same patterns as far as how he treated my mom and their relationship carry over into the other relationships that he's had. So it was just striking that you said that, because literally that is what I have seen my entire life. You talk about a 9-year difference. I've been able to see this and really recognize these issues since I was 10 years old. And literally my whole adolescent upbringing, I've been able to see, that rocky relationship between my brother and my mother. And, I questioned a lot of it, of course, as I got older. Like I said, I'm 21 now. I'm a lot wiser. Like I've seen a lot more. I know where a lot of it kind of comes from. And I'm able to think back to when I was 10 years old, think back to when I was 12 years old and say, maybe this is the root of some of the issues that they're having now. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely cognizant of that. I'm super appreciative of my mom, and it really makes me happy that she didn't change her parenting style when it came to raising me. And she tells me this story all the time because she questioned a lot of her, parenting decisions because my brother didn't necessarily take the right track in life. And of course, like I said, their situation was always rocky. So for a long time, she thought that what she was doing maybe was wrong. She thought that maybe she was the issue. But, my dad encouraged her to, keep that confidence as a parent to not change anything because she knew at her core, she was doing the right thing to raise her son. So when it comes to raising me, and that's my only brother, so it's only two of us. When it came around to raise me, she didn't change anything about her parenting, and I'm so glad that she didn't because we have such a great relationship. And I definitely wouldn't be the man that I am today if it weren't for the parenting of both my mom and my dad. So.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. That was a very, very transparent. What you just shared, that was very transparent and honest. And it's interesting because I know that the mama's boy kind of those terms aren't the connotation of those terms aren't used in the best light when we talk about boys, well, in particular in our case, Black boys and their moms, because a lot of people look at that in a negative light. But then again, I feel like it's a double standard because when you have daddy's girls, people don't treat that the same. They look at it differently. Dads and daughters, moms and sons, they look at that differently for some reason, and they don't create a negative connotation for daddy's girls like they do for mama's boys, because they look at a mama's boy as someone who is just like kind of like a spoiled brat, someone who doesn't have any responsibilities, someone who is not driven or motivated, and that's not true. It's just I just look at it as a man or a boy that has a really good relationship with his mom. And again, like you said before, that carries into your relationships. As a man, how you view women is based upon how you view your mom. So how you view your mom as a boy, that is how you're going to view women. That's how it dictates how you are going to treat women, how you're going to view women, whether or not you're going to view women in a positive light, whether or not you are going to respect them in their dreams, and to and to be respectful of them as people. So the relationship with your mom as a man is really, really imperative because that carries into your all of your relationships, and people wonder why they're so why they can't have successful relationships. A lot of men wonder why they don't have successful relationships with women in particular, but it stems from your relationship with your mom. Like, the first woman that tells you as a man that I love you is supposed to be your mom. So you grow up looking at your mom. So she is a representation of the type of women that you are going to you're going to be attracted to in some way or another. And I feel like when you are clear about who you are, and when you're clear, and when you repair broken relationships, you become aware of who you are, and you have a better foundation. I think that a part of being a man is developing a good foundation to stand on, with the good, the bad, the ugly, your strengths and weaknesses, and just making that a part of who you are. And I know that you said to shift gears a little bit. I know that you said that I read in your bio that in order to build this brand and in order to expand upon your career as a public speaker and as like a motivational speaker, I know that you decided to quit football in order to focus on this and to focus on your studies. So what was that experience like? Could you just give us an idea or just give us your take on what that was like?
Absolutely. So I played football for McDaniel College for 2 years. Probably about a year and a half, because I kind of quit playing football in the middle of my sophomore season. And I played strong safety in college up until that point. I played football for 8 years up until that point. And focusing on JD Speaks was definitely not the only reason why I quit football. And I just remember being so sad, so frustrated, so depressed. and then also so conflicted because, as I stated earlier, the thing that got me in the door, the thing that actually got me excited about going to college, the thing that has gotten me so many different opportunities and relationships and life experiences is the thing that I resented, is the thing that I didn't want to do anymore. It's the thing that I actually wanted to quit. So one side of me knew that I needed to leave the game. You know, there were times in summer training camp where as soon as I threw that helmet on, I don't know if some of the viewers know, but a lot of NFL players and a lot of college players, we wear like those visors, right? There's like the clear shield, and it's hard to see your face. So that visor was a mask for me in a lot of ways because you couldn't see the tears rolling down my face as I would jog onto the practice field. Like you couldn't see how uninterested I was in whatever drill we were doing. There were days at practice where the coach just thought I was off. And I'm like, man, like I really do not love this game anymore. It became more of a business. It became more of a chore than anything. It didn't help that I wasn't getting any playing time. Like I'll be the first to admit, like I did not play a single snap of college football. Like I practiced for a year and a half, went to every film study, went to every weightlifting session, and I never played a snap. I never played in the game at all. And to just know that I went through all that work and I wasn't able to fully appreciate the work that I put in because I wasn't able to see the result of it on the field was frustrating in a lot of ways too. And I think it also what also contributed to me wanting to leave the game was the fact that I didn't have a lot of guys on the team that I was close friends with. And I don't know if you know, but in college football, you do everything with your team. Like you're required to eat breakfast with your team. You're at practice. You're at film sessions with your team. You're getting on the bus with your team. You're getting off the bus with your team. You're eating dinner with your team. You've got, individual positional meetings. So after I meet with the entire team, then I'm meeting with the defense. Then I meet with the safety. So it's just so many, you spend so much time with these people. It's like I was spending so much time with people that I wasn't connected to. And I will always think about, like, if I wasn't at practice right now, what else could I be doing? If I wasn't at this film session right now, what else could I be doing? So literally day after day, my love for football started to decrease. And I don't know if I said this already, but quitting football was the hardest decision that I've ever made in my young life up until this point. I remember the day, it was around October 15th. Of 2018 was around the day that I quit football, and I remember texting coach asking to come up to his office, and then 15 minutes later I made the decision to quit. And that was a life-changing decision, even though that was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make in my life. It was one of the most important decisions I've ever made in my life, and it's definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Just being able to free up my time, being able to free up my spirit, and actually do the things that I enjoy doing, like investing in JD Speaks and knowing that I'm changing people's lives, spending more time with my longtime girlfriend that I've been with for over 2 years now, being more involved on campus, joining a Black Student Union and joining the entrepreneurship program at my school. Just so many different things that I didn't have the time or the energy to do because I was spending so much time doing something that wasn't for me. And I truly believe, I know this is called Awesome God Radio, so I feel like I have the right to speak about my God. God definitely showed me that football was not my destiny. That wasn't the end for me. I wasn't destined to go to the NFL. Some people are. Some people, football changes lives. I believe that. Football, saves some people's lives. But that just wasn't really my story. Football was a launching pad for me to get to where I needed to be. And now I'm able to speak to other young men and even just people and athletes in general about how I use my experiences in sports and even my experience leaving the game to allow me to be successful in other aspects of my life.
Yes, and I love the fact that you share your experience about that, because I know that a lot of people make you feel bad when you decide not to pursue something different. When you make the decision to quit something or to not pursue something anymore, I know that a lot of people give you a hard time because of that. I know that a lot of people everybody's not really supportive of that decision. And with football in particular, and even in the world of sports and entertainment, I feel like when it comes to men, I think that boys, they watch a lot of TV and they aspire to be these stars. I notice the basketball stars and the football stars, I've been to games where they try to, imitate the stars that they see on TV, and they think that that's the only way to be successful is to pursue sports or to make it in some form of entertainment, because they look at rappers, they look at like I said, sports, people in the sports industry and other athletes, and they have a wrong perception of what that is. And a lot of people a lot of boys don't understand that, you don't have to be, you don't have to excel in sports in order to be successful. You don't have to have a career in entertainment in order to be successful. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You don't have to prove how good you are at football in order to prove how masculine you are or how much of a man you are. And you don't owe anybody anything, because it's still your life. And as long as you are not hurting anybody in the process, and as long as you're staying true to who you are and your focus is still the same, and you're still standing on that faith and that purpose that you just explained, it's really no problem with that. So I do know that.
And there's two things I want to add to that before you move on. I just want to add like two little mini stories that will really like expand on some of the points you just made. I remember about 2 weeks before I quit football, but 2 weeks before I had that meeting with my coach, I was in the locker room, and one of the players on the team at the time, he was really talking bad about the players who had already quit. So I was the first one on my team to quit. There had already been several people that I left for various reasons and things like that. And he was just saying, and I'll say this, the PG version, man, those players that quit, they some little girls, man. They not tough, they not masculine, because they quit on us. And if you a real man, you would stick it out, you would stay on the team. And then, and mind you, he's just saying, nobody prompted him to say this. I guess this just came from like a spout of frustration. I don't know where this came from, but he's saying this amongst all of these players in the locker room. There's probably about 20 of us just like standing around and that are in the earshot of this kind of soliloquy that he was going on. And then I spoke up and I said, well, I would respect the player who leaves the game and is it being a detriment to the team and is actually doing what is right for himself also, than somebody who is going to be a cancer to the team and that is just going to stay on just for the sake of saying that they're a football player, just for the sake of saying that, I didn't quit on my team. Well, it's like you already quit mentally, so you might as well actually quit. You know what I mean? There's no reason to be in a place and be miserable and, go through all that physical pain too. I didn't even talk about the injuries aspect of it. I've had several concussions in my football career. So literally, I would respect the man that does what's right for him, that follows God's calling and is doing what is right for him and the people that love him and the people around him, than somebody who is going to bow down to the societal norm that you can't quit. You have to stick it out. You have to finish the season or whatever it may be. And I literally said all of this in front of the 20 guys, and it's completely silent in the locker room at this point. And the guy, he couldn't even be mad at me. He really just was thinking, it was like, oh, like I never really thought about it like that. And as soon as he had that reaction to what I said, I knew it was time for me to leave, because that was me confessing out loud, like, this is what I need to do. That was really that confirmation. Like, once I said that, I truly believed that. And if I was going to say that about anybody else, I need to make sure that I did that for myself. Also, one other like little mini story. I remember over the past few summers, I've been working for my college in our summer orientation program for our first year students. So before our freshmen start in the fall semester, they had the opportunity to visit our campus over the summer and spend a couple of days and do some different activities on campus. And I was one of the student facilitators of that. And one of the first questions that people always ask me is, what sport do you play? Not even, do you play a sport? They automatically assume that I play a sport because of my physique. I'm very still into fitness, and I like to keep my, my physical fitness up. But people always ask, what sport do you play? I'm like, oh, I don't really play a sport anymore. I used to play football, but I no longer play. And then it's kind of like I can slowly see their face kind of frown up, as if I'm supposed to be playing football. Like, I'm entitled to play this game because of how I look. It's like I'm wasting my physical being. Like, I'm wasting some sort of talent by not playing football. And that's another part of masculinity too. And I see a lot of memes going around on social media about that. And some of them are funny, but they're absolutely true. It's like, if you're over 6 foot, you should be playing basketball in our culture. If you're stocky and you have muscle, you should be, quote unquote, using that for something like a particular sport. And it took me a while to shift my identity from being known as the athletic guy, from being known as the football player or somebody who works out a whole lot, to being known as an inspirational speaker, to being known as a dean's list student, a straight A student, to being known as a leader on campus. So literally shifting, what my body was once used for to now what it represents. From shifting from, playing a game that I hated and, playing for the sake of calling myself a football player, that walking in my real purpose and using, my body, my mind, and the knowledge that I have in order to change people and inspire people's lives. So I just wanted to share those two tidbits. And I really feel like that was important in overcoming that toxic masculinity that I was experiencing when I played football.
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely appreciate you for sharing that. I know that, we, and being transparent is the way we reach out to others, and it's the way we kind of minister to others, because everybody has a story to tell, and it's important to share that to help the next person in the process. I know that, I'm not sure if I share this, but right now I'm in the winter session for my school. So I'm taking a winter class right now. And it's called The Sociology of Gender. So I'm doing a lot of research, a lot of reading and writing. And what's ironic about this class that is different from all of the other classes that I've taken is that I am the only male in my class, and I am the only black male in my class. The rest of my class are females. All of them are females, and none of them are. There's only one that's one of color, but the rest of them are not women of color. And one of my classmates who is not black and who's not a woman of color, she asked me about what it means to be a black male in society, and what it means to. She asked me about what it looks like in terms of defeating that toxic masculinity culture, and what it means to break through those stereotypes. And I told her that I just think that it just begins with people just having that open forum with their children at home, and just getting to know people rather than judging them about what they think they are or what they think they should be. I told her that I think that having the conversation about, race, and about, just having diversity and inclusion, not just in school, but in the workplace and in different areas of our lives. I told her that I think that the ways that and I know that there are other men that look like me, we have to, we definitely have to create that open forum with our children, and we have to stay open to what our kids want to do. We have to let them be who they want to be instead of who we want them to be, or who we think that society will accept them to be. I told her that I think that as far as race is concerned, just having that open forum with your children and with your family when people who look like me are not around, just having that open forum, learning about Black history is something that is a part of American history that I think people who are not of color need to understand. And it factors into the reasons why we view things the way we view things now. So I think that, and that's what I told her, because I feel like it's something that I have to live through every day, as a young Black male, because a lot of them, and they shared it with me, they don't have to have conversations with their families and with their children about, okay, you don't leave your house without your keys, wallet, cell phone, and your ID. When you get pulled over by the police, you have to make sure you show them your hands. Don't make any sudden moves. Or, when you walk into a public place, take your hood off, take your jacket off. You don't have to have all these conversations when you're not a Black male in society nowadays. But then the stereotypes that we have on us is that, we are supposed to be the aggressive ones, the quote unquote thugs, or and all of those other personas. But a lot of people aren't really giving us permission to be ourselves. So what does that look like for you in terms of what it means to be a Black male in society for you, and what it means to break through a lot of the stereotypes that people have because of how you choose to carry yourself?
Yeah, man. And I guess I'll start by talking a little bit about my study abroad experience, because I feel like it kind of opened up a lot of ideas and thoughts that I'd never really considered, being in the U.S. honestly. So for those who don't know, I actually studied abroad in Budapest, Hungary, earlier this year before the pandemic hit. So I spent from late January until about mid March, when we were called back, when the virus really became an international, when it really became a pandemic, is when I was called back home. But I would say that in that 6 week period, I realized a lot of things that are exclusively American that I thought that was just like a way of being in the world. And it's like, there's just certain things that you don't even consider as being American, or being, belonging to a particular place. And it's like you go to a whole nother place in a whole nother part of the world, and they do and see things completely differently. Like, for example, I'm in Budapest, I'm in downtown, like it's people everywhere just walking. I think Budapest is like 95% white or something like that. So I almost virtually never saw another black person. If I did, it was probably another college student, and we would wave if we were like 500 feet apart. Like it was a thing to like see a black person in Budapest. It was so funny. But just being like one of the only black people like out and about in a particular area, I realized that everybody's eyes weren't on me, like in the same way that I feel like eyes are on me in America. Like if I'm walking down the street wearing Jordans in Baltimore, where I'm from, it's like I got to worry about, being racially profiled by the police. I got to worry about, another young black male trying to run up on me and take my shoes. You know what I mean? And to walk around in a foreign country and to feel safer in this environment that I know little about than an environment that I know a lot about back home, it really says something about that environment. It really says something about that culture. And it's like, if anybody were to look me up and down in Budapest, they were probably just trying to figure out what shoes I was wearing. You know what I mean? They probably thought my Jordans were cool or something like that. But, my study abroad experience was absolutely powerful and revealing to me that, essentially this is America. Like, and we've seen it, in this past week with the events that happened at the Capitol. Like, there's two Americas. You know what I mean? There's an America that the privileged live in, and then there's America that the disenfranchised live in. There's an America that black and brown people like you and I live in. There's an America where oppressed people are getting oppressed every single day, and the news doesn't cover it. You know what I mean? So just to experience all of that, and to experience it at the age of 21, I'm just so glad that I kind of had that experience abroad, because not only did I learn about the culture in Hungary and in Central Europe, but I learned a little bit more about my own culture by not being there, from having kind of like that fishbowl effect and seeing America from the seeing America from the outside. It's like I kind of got like a bigger picture of what American culture is, and there's so many things in our culture that a lot of people don't realize is just a part of our culture, that there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. Like you said, I think the word that would describe, what you talked about a few minutes ago is empathy, right? Just being able to empathize with people and have that open dialogue and understand where they're coming from, and realizing that, somebody created this. Like, man created racism. Like, we weren't put on this earth and racism existed. You know what I mean? That was man-made. That was made by culture. That was made by societal norms. That was made by toxic masculinity. All of these things were man-made, and we have to do the work of unmaking these things. We have to undo a lot of these parts. We have to unpack a lot of these things in order to rectify these issues, and in order to repair a lot of the damage that has been done.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that experience. I remember when you went, abroad. I was following your work, and I remember when you had that experience, and you were on Instagram and through many of your social media outlets talking about it, and I see that you really enjoyed it. I know you wish you would have stayed, longer before the pandemic, but I do know that I can see that you really enjoyed that experience, and that it opened your eyes to a whole new world in a way. One thing I wanted to shift gears again, and I wanted to talk a little bit about. We have about 9 minutes, so I wanted to talk a little bit about male mentorship, because it's something that I would like to do, because I feel like in some ways it wasn't really done for me. I felt like even though I did have supporters and influences, growing up, I felt like, and I still in some way feel like I'm not really respected as much as I should in terms of um, in my background. I think that I have a very, well, I know that I have a really, really difficult time uh, um, looking for good male role models, because the majority of my friends are females. And I think that is just because I have a good relationship with my mom and a very close relationship with my mom. I think I feel as though I just cling more towards, having female friends because it's easier for me, and it just makes me feel more comfortable. And because of that, and I feel like I'm really criticized for that a lot, because a lot of people try to emasculate me and tell me that, and then they try to tell me that I'm not man enough, or that I need to have more male mentors, and that I need to um, just be something that I don't think I should be, and I don't really want to be. I'm just myself all the time. So what does it look like to have good male mentorship in today's world? Because I know that it's important, but I also know that you have to gain that trust with people in order to feel comfortable. You have to be careful about who you allow to lead you, and to on your journey. So what does that look like, to have a good male mentor, and how how do we go about picking good role models?
Absolutely. And like you said, it's tough. This isn't an easy proposition, to find a trusted mentor. I know in my life there have been a lot of mentors that have come and gone. It was great while it lasted, but there was a certain situation that happened, or people just grow apart and it doesn't really work out. So it takes some trial and error, and it takes a lot of trust and commitment and vulnerability in order to find one. But I definitely believe that once you find one, it's worthwhile. And I'll say that a lot of my male mentors have actually been found in academia, at McDaniel College, at the certain speaking venues that I've spoken at. I've spoken to a lot of male mentors, and I think it really starts with them just being good people. Like, it's not just about how successful they are and like how many books they've written and the work that they've done. You can really tell a good mentor by how open they are to speak about their personal life. You know what I mean? And if a mentor is kind of shielding their personal life and they're not open and honest and transparent with you, then that could be a red flag. I listened to a speaker by the name of Inky Johnson, and he says all the time, there are a lot of people in this world that are a public success but a private failure. And I feel like that there are a lot of, quote unquote mentors out here that are a public success, but they're a failure in private, behind closed doors. They're having, relationship issues with their mom or their significant other, or, their siblings, or whatever it may be. Maybe their finances aren't necessarily in line. You know what I'm saying? You want to find a mentor that not only has all of those things behind the scenes together, but is also willing to share with you that information. And I know that all my mentors, I can speak to them not only about how to become a successful speaker and how to find a scholarship, but I could also talk to them about how to find new friends. You know what I mean? What it means to manage your money the correct way, what it means to treat women the right way. How did they go about making certain decisions in their career, as far as how to choose a specific career path, or how to, accept a job or decline a job. You know what I'm saying? So a good mentor is somebody who is open, honest, and transparent, and somebody who isn't hiding anything. It's somebody that can answer all of your questions, you know what I mean? And not even answer all of your questions, but at least entertain them, or be able to say, I'm not sure, I will refer you to this person. You know what I mean? So you just got to find somebody that's not trying to shield who they are behind the scenes and is able to let you in a little bit on that. So.
Yes, and I definitely appreciate you for sharing that, because I know it's very difficult for me because of a lot of things that I've experienced in the past, me being hurt by so many people, and males in particular, role models that I trusted, or people that I trusted who let me down. I'm pretty much an introvert by nature. I have a small circle of peers that I associate myself with, and I have a lot of associates, but it's a big fear that I have, that I'm working on now. But I know that the trust issues can really, really be detrimental, because I feel like now, in my life, I don't want to prove who I am anymore, because I feel like my work And because of how I carry myself, I feel like all of that speaks for itself now. I don't really feel as though I don't need to prove anything else to anybody anymore. And in reference to just being a black male in society, I feel like, I constantly have to relive that all the time. But I feel like, in terms of my classmate's question, and like I like I told her, I'm tired of talking about what it means to be black. I'm tired of talking about this experience because I feel like people should know by now. Because of the events that have transpired in the world.
Do the homework yourself.
Right. I'm just saying you should. Right. I'm just saying you should know by now. And if you choose not to know, I feel like you don't care, and you're not open to learning about that experience and what that means. But I feel as though, I'm tired of talking about that experience. I feel like I have to relive it over and over again, when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed at night, and when I live my life. So that's why I think that people have to demonstrate a level of sensitivity to that. And I think people have to understand it from another perspective. I definitely appreciate you for being on my show and for taking time out of your schedule to talk to me about this. Where can people follow your work, and where can people have access to the interviews that you've done or the speaking engagements that you've participated in? So where can people find all of that?
Right. So everybody listening right now, you can visit my website at www.jdspeaks with the S on the end.com. Again, www.jdspeaks.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at JDSpeaks. And then you can also find me on YouTube, JD Space Speaks. So you can follow me on all those channels. I would recommend visiting my Instagram and my website first. All of that stuff will link right to my YouTube and all of the different videos that I've done. I'm talking about speaking engagements, certain podcasts like this one that I've been on. I do a lot of Instagram stories. I answer a lot of questions on social media. So if you have any questions for me, or if you want to start a conversation, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram and even Facebook. You can find me on those two channels as well.
Yes, well, I want to thank you for being a part of my broadcast, and I want to thank you for taking time out again, to speak with me about subjects like these that need to be unpacked more often than not. So I'm going to let you go, and I'm definitely going to keep in touch, and I will be inviting you back on the show in the future to talk about many of the current events and many of the things, many of the activities and special occasions that you have coming up, so that you can share with other people, and so that you can be open and transparent about that too. And I know that, you have helped someone, with this broadcast. So I want to thank you again.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me on. Thank you for your time and attention. And thank you for everybody who's watching right now. I just want to say, man, again, I'm extremely proud of everything that you're doing. I know that third book is on the way, so I'll be on the lookout for that, and everybody else should be too. So.
So take care, and I wish you a good evening. Have a good evening.
Absolutely. You as well.
Okay, so that wraps up another edition of the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome God Radio. I want to thank you guys again for listening. And I want to let you guys know that next week we are going to have Reverend Dr. Alvin Hathaway. This is going to be a redo of the broadcast back in September that didn't go so well with all the technical difficulties. So next week on January 19th, Tuesday, January 19th, we are going to have Reverend Dr. Alvin Hathaway here with us to talk about the church, the community, the gospel, and religion. And we're going to have a discussion about how we can bring our community back together. And he's going to talk about the work that he does as a community activist and as a pastor in order to do that. So make an appointment to meet me back here at 6 p.m. next week, from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Beauty in Us Radio, right here on Awesome God Radio. And I thank you guys again for listening. This was a really, really great discussion. And I encourage you all to stay safe, and I encourage you all to stay blessed in all of it that you do. I will be back next week. So again, make an appointment to meet me back here from 6 to 7 p.m. so that we can have a redo of our broadcast with the Reverend Dr. Alvin Hathaway that didn't go so well in last September. So, I hope to see you guys again. Have a good evening.